everybody, and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and welcome to a brand new series here at Sweet and Sour. This is Tier List Tuesdays. I like that, Scott. It's got a nice ring to it. Tier List Tuesday. We're not going to do it every Tuesday.
After that little bit of singing, you need to be on that Sing Your Dialect on Twitter, which obviously popped off last night.
Do you know what? I'm going to put my name in the hat, whether they accept it or not. I don't know. It's guys, Tier List Tuesdays. We're not going to do it every week unless there's something to do. Otherwise, we'll run out of things by the time it gets to Christmas. But I'm really excited about this. I love these tier list videos. And today, we are going to be ranking every Premier League club's most expensive transfer. But not just that, their current record transfer. So, of course, some clubs have a record transfer that they've sold. It's currently playing still.
And not to give anything away too much, because obviously you're going to be seeing the list of people soon. There's one that might be a bit questionable, which we might have to look into a bit and debate whether we're going to actually put him on. But we'll get to that, as you'll shortly see. I'm going to bring up the list now.
I've got no idea what you could mean.
No prizes for guessing who. Everton.
Scott, let's dive straight into Christopher Ayer. He came in the summer from Celtic. I think it was around 15 million. If you'd have asked me in October, you'd have said, listen, well, you know, it could be a great signing. They've dipped off a little bit, but I'd say still worth the money. Let's quickly just explain what we've got here. So could have paid double. So self-explanatory. If you played twice as much, it's still worth it. Worth the money. Good signing. Wait and see. Not necessarily that they're so young, but maybe they just came from abroad. Give them a bit more time. Not worth it. Just not a good buy. And want a refund. Simple as. Scott, Christopher Ayer.
I think with him, you've got to put him in worth the money, and it could potentially turn out into a could have paid double, to be honest, depending on how things go. Okay. I mean, you have to consider his age, 23 years of age, and cost £15 million. I mean, for a centre-back and the prices there, commanding, and the way he started to life in the Premier League, definitely worth the money.
I'm with you 100%. Christian Benteke. This is an odd one. He's been at Palace now for 5 years. He moved in the 16-17 summer. 32.5 million, I think it was. Would you say he's been worth the money? Because he has had seasons where he scored like 5 goals, but then he's had a decent start this season. I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it? Because it's one of them where I don't think he's been terrible for Palace, but let's put it into perspective. What he has done. Was that worth 32 million? And I know that's
5 years ago. That's 32 million 5 or 6 seasons ago as well, remember?
Yeah, which means add inflation, that's about 40. He's not been worth it, has he? He's not been worth that much. I don't think especially this season, he's not been terrible for him, but I just don't think you wouldn't pay 32 million for him, would you?
No,
look, if you knew what he gave to Palace over the years, he's just not been quite worth it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you could fast forward the clock from when they brought him and you said to them, this is what he would give you for 32 million, you'd probably say no thanks. Coming on to Buendia, of course, big signing in the summer for Villa from Norwich. I think it was around about 34, 35 million plus a few add-ons. This is a wait and see for me. I think that's pretty simple. He's had a tough time of it so far, but he's got quality, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have to put him in that wait and see. We know he's got the quality. It's just whether he's going to long term. He's showed a bit of a mixed bag, hasn't he, so far? Still got age on his sides for sure. Mr. Virgil van Dijk. Now, this is a hard one, isn't it? Because he's been absolutely brilliant for Liverpool. There's no mistake about it. Do you know what, though? I was going to say he cost 75 million, and you could argue that, 150 million for a centre-back would have been stupid. But when you actually consider that since he's come, they've won Champions Leagues, they've also got the first ever Premier League. And I think he has a lot to do with that. And we saw that when he was out last season for a massive period of time, what happened with, of course, Liverpool in the league. Could you argue that having paid double the money wouldn't have been a bad. You'd still have what he brought to Liverpool so far.
1,000,000%. Let me put it to you as simple as this: if Liverpool went out and brought three £50 million players, could you guarantee the same success that they've had? He's changed the whole squad. I think you could have paid double for Van Dijk, and now you'd think, it's a lot of money. But Scott, Coutinho was 140.
Wasn't he, to Barcelona? Yeah, you're
I
correct.
think he could pay double. I think he could pay double, and you'd say that was worth the money.
Yeah, I mean, moving on to obviously Elyounoussi, who's of course currently at Southampton, spent quite a bit of a time on loan, and he actually cost 15 million. I mean, at the moment, you've got to put him in that not worth it category. I think he's 27 years of age as well, so it's not exactly like he should be right in the prime of his career now. And I don't think he's quite offered enough for that price tag yet. And of course, he's not played that much in a Southampton shirt.
No, I agree. 15 million from Basel. Not really a wait and see for me. He's had a couple of loan spells. I agree. Scott, Paul Pogba. This divides opinion, not just between Man U fans, but fans of other clubs. Rory, the famous Chelsea fan, of course, who's on the kickoff, thinks he could be, he's a world-class player. It's just that Man United haven't got the best of him. Jose Mourinho couldn't. Oli couldn't. Listen, I think he's our first. I want a refund. You said to United 5 years ago when they paid 90 million that you wouldn't win a Prem, you'd win a Europa League and a League Cup or an FA Cup. I think that the amount of games he's played, he's missed so much. That's a refund, surely.
I think it has to be, but the interesting one with this is if someone asked me whether I think Pogba is a 90 mil player, maybe not quite now because of his age. Part of me would think at a different club things might have gone better, but you've got to put it into perspective of how it's gone at Manchester United. It's not gone great, and he's had for about the last 2 or 3 years now, he's had his agent talking about the fact that, he wants to leave. That's always been surrounding him. So definitely for me, he has to go into the I want a refund. And I think you have to throw the next person in there straight into there as well. Joe Linton from Newcastle. £38 million from Hoffenheim. Look, he's not been worth it. I don't think we need to spend any more time on him than that, do we? I mean, he has just not been worth that money. And
no,
I don't think you'd have one Newcastle fan that wouldn't want a refund if they could get one.
No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree. Let's come on to Mwepu from Brighton. He came from RB Salzburg in the summer, Scott. 20 million. He's only played 6 games. I think he's got a goal and an assist this season. It's got to be a wait and see, but I think he's done all right so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's had a pretty good start to the life in the Premier League, of course, coming from a league of the German league, which we've seen the likes of Sancho struggle. For example, he struggled to adapt so far, and it's we've spoke about a couple of German players that have really struggled. Not German players that have come from the German league that have struggled to adapt. So yeah, I think he's definitely a wait and see, but he has had a promising start so far. And look, moving on to the next one, Fabio Silva. For those that don't know, we are massive. We are Wolves fans ourselves. I think you've got to put him in the wait and see. I don't think, he had a really tough situation last year where he's thrown in because of the Jimenez injury. I don't think life has perhaps been the easiest for him so far. So 35 million, look, it was a lot of money, but a lot of that was potentially agency fees as well. He's a wait and see. I think still only 19 years of age. There's a lot of potential from what I've seen of him.
No, I agree. It has to be a wait and see. We do get a lot of stick from rival fans. Can't believe how much we paid for him. But it has to be a wait and see. I'm sure you're happy with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Let me just say one thing, because I know there'll be people out there that will be in the comments going, they got it wrong. They got it wrong. Scott said RB Salzburg from the German league. I'm sure you meant the Austrian league, but I know there'll be trolls out there going, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
I did get it completely wrong, didn't I? Yeah. Sorry.
But I like to think, Scott, you knew what you really meant. You knew what you really meant. Come on to Jack Grealish. 100 million. He's not the youngest player in the world. Now, we know how good he was for Villa. I've got a funny feeling that in 2 or 3 years, we're going to say it wasn't worth it. But on the other side of that, listen, he could be a world beater under Pep. Is this just a wait and see because we can't say either way because it's so much money?
It's a tough one, isn't it, this? Because half of me thinks that if they'd they'd prioritised the Kane deal earlier on, that they might have actually got him. I think once they paid 100 mil for Grealish, I still suspect that then made Daniel Levy think, if we can get, if Villa can get 100 mil for Grealish, who, absolutely amazing player, but he's not an out and out right goal scorer. What can I get from Mr. Harry Kane? So it potentially cost City the move for Kane. I mean, obviously based on this season, maybe that was a good thing. But yeah, at the moment, I agree with you. I think it's going to be hard for him to justify that £100 million price tag. But at the moment, it's definitely a wait and see, isn't it?
I think that's all it can be. I think it would be very harsh to say it's not worth it, and I think you'd be stretching to say it's worth. He's worth the money already. Scott, coming on to Ndombele, came from Lyon. I think it was the start of last season. Quite a big fee. I think it was 55 million pounds. This is a borderline worth the money wait and see because he has had his injuries. He's a very good player. We've seen that, but he does have, when he does play, he'll have 2 or 3 games, 4 games where you think just hasn't been in it. But then you'll see him play against a side and just absolutely boss the game.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's similar to, that sounds very similar to a guy that we've put in I Want a Refund, Mr. Paul Pogba. But I've got to be honest, I'd like to put him in not worth the money. There's been questions around his attitude. I don't think the Spurs documentary did any favours for him in that and his attitude. I know Mourinho wasn't happy with his attitude. I think even Nuno as well potentially wasn't too happy with how he performed. He's had a mixed bag with injuries as well as just not getting himself fit. And I think when you come in at that price tag, you really want a game changer, especially when it's Spurs spending that kind of money. And he's just not been that, has he? So for me, I think we could already classify him as not worth it.
Wow. That's a big one, to be fair. Spurs fans, let us know. I'm going to go with Scott. I would have said wait and see. But I do kind of get your angle as to why you're saying he's not worth it.
Who's sitting on the fence this wait and see?
I'll happily get splinters on that one. Scott, coming on to Rodrigo. Now, this is the player that played very well against our club Wolves earlier on, and maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, scored the penalty in the last minute to get them a draw at Ellen Road. But you speak to Leeds fans, it came from Valencia, £30 million. I don't think they'd say wait and see. The Leeds fans I've spoken to, they're not happy that he just hasn't done the business yet. And 30 million, it's not cheap.
I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for me, as you say, he was a striker that came in. It feels to me that maybe he was going to be the potential option. And then Bamford had an absolute blinder of a season anyway, didn't he? And with Rodrigo, I think it's one of those where I agree with you. I think it's a not worth the money situation. I think he has, from what we've seen this game, as you say, the game against our club Wolves, he did have a good game then. But for 30 million, especially when they were a newly promoted team at the time, of course, only in the second season now, and really needing a goal scorer at times, he's just not been that, has he?
I think when you compare him to a player that made a move in the same window and only cost an extra 10 million in Diogo Jota, I think you look at that and you think, well, we paid 30 less, but nowhere near the levels. Coming on to Ismail Assar. Oh, Scott, could he be joining Mr. VVD?
I think you have to argue that he could. I mean, I've got 25 to 30 million, wasn't it, when you factor in add-ons? And it's an interesting one, isn't it? That he obviously, when he went down last year, the previous season with Watford, it's an interesting one that clubs are kind of having a look around at him then.
United
and potentially wanted to spend nearly double the money. He's definitely worth the money.
Is he? Would you say so? If they paid let's say 55, 60 million 2 seasons ago, they went down. It wasn't his fault. He was one of the reasons why they were almost staying up. Got them promotion again last season. He started very well this season. All that into account, if they'd have paid 55, 60 million, would we say that has been worth the money?
I don't think could have paid double is quite right. I think he's been worth the money so far, but even now, even though he is playing quite well, I still don't think if a big club went in for him this transfer window, I don't think they'd get 55, 60 mil for selling him.
Oh, I think a team could pay 50 million for him. I really think a team.
Let's go positive then. Let's stick him in that category and let's see what Watford fans think.
I'm saying, see, I think he's worth the money. I think he's that in between one. I think he's could have paid 1.5 worth the money. Is it too late to add an extra tier?
We'll just shove him in worth the money.
Yeah, so, Watford fans, let us know. Would you have been happy if you'd have paid 60 million for him? And do you think anyone would? That's a tricky one when you think about it. Scott.
Yeah. We've had to go away from this briefly. We've got Everton's record signing. Can we do this one?
Do we keep the integrity of the channel and move on, or do we have a laugh?
I think we have to rank him. Everton's record signing. This is going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
Let's do it, Scott. If we get cancelled, we'll start a new channel, Sour and Sweet Soccer.
And he's not moved to Prison FC yet, has he?
How much, Scott? How much would Prison FC pay for Sigurdsson right now?
Well, I don't think they have to pay, do they? I mean, they just managed to get him. I mean, but let's not spend too long. But I think at the moment, Everton fans and probably everyone around football would say he's definitely not been worth the money, and more than that, they want a refund.
Even before this whole debacle, what was he? 50
alleged debacle.
Well, oh yeah. Okay. Well, debacle in terms of mess. I meant it in terms of mess. Without this whole thing happening, I think they brought him from Swansea again. Maybe 6 seasons ago now. It seems forever. Didn't they pay 50 million then? And even without all this nonsense, would he have been worth it? Absolutely not.
You'd want a refund regardless, wouldn't you? But I think this is I think it's definitely been Let's just move on.
I agree. Scott, Kai Havertz, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Kai Havertz. You've thrown it over to me, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's a definite wait and see for me. I think he's he's a very young player. He's had some very good spells, hasn't he? But it's more the fact that they paid 75 to 80 million for him. I don't think having just one good season is enough to justify that price tag. I think we need to see a continuation of it through 3 or 4 seasons before we can say he was definitely worth it.
Ooh, I mean, could you not? I'm playing devil's advocate here. Could you not argue if you score the winning goal in a Champions League final, that's it? You could never play again. I mean, if you offered a Premier League owner the chance to just give us 80 million and you can win it, we'll give you the Champions League, you would. Teams spend 300 million in a year to try and win the Champions League or at least get to a final. This guy scored in the final. Has he not paid off his debts?
That's a very good point. Yeah, I agree. Moving into worth the money.
I'll tell you.
I'm only saying this because I argued that Van Dijk was worth double the money for bringing Liverpool the first league title and also winning them another Champions League. So people don't say I'm contradicting myself. Go on, Havertz, and you go.
I think he's worth the money because I think he's got a good attitude. He came from Bayer Leverkusen. They've got a good culture there of working hard, maybe not always having the best teams, compared to 15, 20 years ago when they were doing very well. I don't think this guy will let Chelsea down. He might not go on to, reach the heights that other players have, but I think in 3 or 4 years, they'll look back and go, 80 million, that was worth it. I think they'll say that.
Yeah, let's move on to the next player then, Mr. Tielemans. Yep. Van Dijk is currently looking very lonely up there at the top, but I think Mr. Tielemans should join him. They're paid roughly around the 40 million mark. I think if Leicester were to sell him now, he would go for at least double that.
Yeah, 40 million. I think it was from Monaco. If Leicester would have paid 70, 80, do you reckon we'd still be looking at that going, that's a good buy?
You'd
I think
probably
so.
say like it was still. You'd probably still think they'd be getting a bit of profit on that, wouldn't you, if they were to sell him now? And he's definitely contributed a lot to Leicester whilst being there as well. So for me, you can get your money back or get an increase, and he's contributed a lot whilst being there. That's a definite. Could have paid double for me.
I'll use the same example I used for Havertz. He was instrumental in their FA Cup win, both in the lead up and the final. If you said to Leicester, 40 million, 60 million, 80 million, you can win the FA Cup, first time they've ever won it. And he's also helped them achieve Europe, almost getting top four. He's got sell-on value. Leicester could have paid 80 million, and I think they'd have been happy with that. Right, we are coming on to Norwich's record signing, which I have to say is, I think it's £10 million, but the only reason it's their highest record signing is because he's actually got quite a few add-ons. But Scott, that just sums up Norwich, don't they? Record signing. You've been in the Premier League every other season for the last decade, and your record signing is 10 million. It is, I think it's pronounced Tzolis or Tzolis.
Yeah.
He came from Greece. He's very, very young. Has to be a wait and see.
I think it does, yeah. And as you say, it's amazing that that's the record signing in this day and age, especially for a team. Mind you, I mean, we're going to move on to Burnley next, and their record signing, Mr. Chris Wood, is only 15 million. Although I think Max Cornet did actually break that recently, didn't he?
I don't think it did. He break it?
I think it possibly. Oh, it was at least at par, wasn't it? I think that was 15 million too.
Because, Burnley's record signing is still Ben Gibson, of course, who now plays at Norwich. Chris Wood, as far as I understand from when I checked, he's their second most expensive player ever. And they brought him from Leeds, again, 5 or 6 years ago from the Championship. Scott, he doesn't have a sexy name. He's not a good-looking guy. Could have paid treble for Chris Wood, in my opinion. He cost 15 million. If they paid 30 million 5 years ago, this is a player that's getting 10, 11, 12 goals for Burnley most seasons. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's definitely could have paid double. I think we move him straight into there, and one of the most underrated players in the Premier League for me. Probably doesn't get the praise he deserves just purely because it's, Burnley. It's not a topical subject that, the pundits like to talk about, but he does it year in, year out. He's consistent, and he's probably saved Burnley from a couple of times from a relegation, to be honest. So yeah, definitely could have paid double for me. Moving on to Nicolas Pepe.
I'll let you have this one.
I've got to change screens for this one because Pepe, this is heartbreak for me. I backed this guy so much. This season, I stuck my neck out on the line after his positive performance at the end of last season. I said, you lot are not ready for him. Nicolas Pepe is going to absolutely come and destroy the Premier League this year. I even was quoted and saying 20 goals and assists he will get this season. And at the moment, he's stuck on the bench. This bloke, I don't even want to speak about him anymore. He's broke my heart. Pepe, get yourself into I want a refund.
The amount of tweets you've sent out from our Twitter that says Pepe hat-trick incoming today. No wonder we've not got no followers, because you just tweet rubbish.
I'm back to Pepe hat-trick first game of the season against Brentford. That went well.
Oh, God. At least we're going to finish on a positive note. At least we're not going to finish on Pepe, my word. Scott Zuma didn't have a great performance against our club Wolves, at the weekend. However, 35 million from Chelsea. He's only just come, but we've seen him play for season after season now. I think he's had good spells when he's been in the Chelsea team over recent years, being a bit unlucky to get kicked out of the team for players like Christiansen, so on and so forth. I think we're going to look back on this and say it's a great deal. You could argue already he's worth the money for how well he's done this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. For me, it's definitely not a wait and see. I think West Ham, they were battling all transfer window to come and get him, and they did that towards the end. And you know, he's come in, he's just fitted straight into the team, and he looks like he belongs and definitely worth the money. So, I mean, guys, let us know what you think. Obviously, there's got to be disagreements. There always is on this tier list. Brighton fans, I do apologise. Yeah. I'm sick of these Red Bull franchises. That's what caught me off guard when I was doing my research. I was like, oh, Red Bull. Yeah, that's a German team. You franchise, I won't swear. But yeah, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. And we'll see you on the next video.
Absolutely. Tier list Tuesday.
Come on.